to our new webinar. So today we are going to talk about our framework, how to go from zero to demand generation, and share our company's case study, how we generated in the first year of business 72 five-figure inbound opportunities and over 1 million in inbound pipeline. So have lots of things to share with you today. Basically, there are 3 points in our agenda, and one of them is how to align demand generation with the B2B buying process, because that's the core, right? That's one of the most important keys to success. Next, we are going to present the core pillars, and finally make a breakdown of our own strategy. So first of all, 2 things. One is some of you already introduced yourself. Please share where you guys are joining us. Vlad is coming from Valencia. I'm calling from Split, Croatia. David joins from Vancouver, Canada. Mole from Barcelona, Ethan from London, Andrew London, Mega from Mumbai, Rob Pennsylvania, Philip from Leicester, Martin Vienna. Nice. So thanks a lot for joining us, guys. And Nick Nottingham, Ronald Louisiana, Quentin Brussels. So I think mostly UK and US audience dominates today. Great to see all of you. Glenis, Milan, Kaylee. Hi, Kaylee. Minson from Singapore. Cool. So before we'll kick off, I would love guys to get one quick poll and understand where you are in your demand generation journey. So I'm launching a quick poll. So vote, please. Do you run demand generation campaigns? Yes, no, planning to launch, stop, or post. So share with us. And I would present the results. Here we go. Yes, no, planning to launch. Let's do it for 30 seconds more just to see where you guys are in your journey. So I see most of you planning to launch. Some stopped. 1 person stopped. Some of you are running, and some of you are not running. Cool. So I believe that webinar will be very helpful. And let's dive in and start with one simple question. I know Vlad has something to share with you, but let me ask you one simple question. How do you think, guys, B2B companies want their buyers to buy, and how do they run their demand generation programs? Share with us your thoughts in a chat.
The right way.
Right away.
Right away. Sales free, yes, on autopilot, self-service.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody wants to basically buy immediately. But is it how, if we look on the breakdown of tactics, right? Vlad, can you please share the way how we see how most B2B companies do demand generation, what they call demand generation?
Yeah, with pleasure. We have done probably more than 70 in-depth audits of B2B marketing, B2B tech companies with a long and complex sales cycle. And this is part of where this is coming from. Is what we see is that in terms of awareness generation, put it there in quotes, a lot of companies rely on SEO content based on keyword research, things like weekly blog posts or quarterly e-paper, white papers. And when it comes to social, what a lot of companies do is you just go to the LinkedIn page, and what you will see very often is they will share some company-centric news. Oh, we've been to this trade show, we won this award. And they will use social on LinkedIn and otherwise to drop links to their latest content. And the problem with this is that, first of all, a lot of the content that is being created in B2B, especially the content that is based on keyword research, focused on SEO, is quite superficial. It doesn't really have a lot of impact on the buyers. It is a lot of content that is being put together by inexpensive, let's say, writers who do some research by taking bits and pieces from other articles. So a lot of Me Too stuff. And like I said, not a lot of impact on the end customers, on the buyers. Now, when it comes to demand generation, a lot of companies run what we call a naive funnel. And what I mean by that is simply sending ebook downloads, webinar sign up, people who have just joined, downloaded piece of content just because they're interested. They are being sent to sales, or maybe they're put through some sort of a email nurture, which is, at best case, 5 emails trying to take the buyer from, hey, I'm interested to read a little bit about this topic, to, hey, I'm ready to buy. And of course, we know this is not how it works. There is no buying intent there, in other words, and that's why this is not working. And on the other hand, you will have a lot of companies who are trying to just run ads on cold audience, whether that's on social, whether that's with cold email, whether that's any other way, sending people to the demo, to book the demo. Again, a lot of the majority of the market is not buying. There is no buying intent. Somebody coming to LinkedIn, they're not coming there to be pitched. They're not coming there to buy products. They're coming there to learn something. And the problem is that basically what you end up doing is focusing on those companies and buyers who are in the market, which is a minority. And the problem with that is basically only focused on demand capture, capturing this existing demand, is that you very often arrive too late to the party. There are already other competitors who have been positioning themselves for months, maybe, and you basically position yourself as a yet another vendor, commodity, essentially, and you suffer high acquisition cost, low win rates, and it's really hard to close any significant large deals like that. That is how most of the B2B companies do demand generation. And this is how the buyers buy. And I'll do this very, very quickly. What you can see on the left-hand side is our full funnel model that we will guide you through today. Essentially, this is a real example of how we know, and it's just like we are aware of part of the buyer journey. And so essentially, there was a marketer. He saw a LinkedIn post, a comment from his friend on one of my LinkedIn posts. He liked my comment. I reached out to him, connected. He accepted a connection. I mentioned in the message that we also run our Trenches community for B2B marketers. He joined our community. There he saw an announcement that was made by Andrei for one of our partner webinars. He joined the partner webinar. I followed up after the partner webinar with him with a LinkedIn message and shared our case study. He didn't really respond, but he did share the case study privately with his CMO. I saw in the content analytics that the CMO was checking out the case study. I reached out to her and connected. She did accept the connection, but she didn't respond. She just started following my post. Nothing really happened for months. Then something internally happened. They had a bad review. They had basically second quarter in a row missing the targets, and they got a much more aggressive targets for the next year, and they needed to change their go-to-market strategy. The CMO saw that we are organizing the summit, sent her marketer to join our summit to get some ideas. He saw our presentation that was about our go-to-market framework. He took a screenshot of the framework, shared it with the CMO, who, based on that, went on our website, checked out the web pages there, saw one of our clients, she knew them, and so she just reached out to them, asked for a reference, got a positive feedback, asked her marketer to book a call with us. We had a call, made a proposal, didn't hear back again for a while from the marketer. We then went on and tried to follow up, didn't get anything back. And then actually Andre reached out to the CMO, invited her to a podcast as a guest, spoke to her to understand what the challenges and priorities are and why the proposal didn't move forward, figure out that there was actually a problem with making a business case to the executive team. And we agreed that I would help the marketer make the business case. As a consequence, we had a call with the CMO who agreed to do, but actually just focus on planning. And we made that first engagement, which was a small one. I finally sold a bigger engagement, had it done, had good results, recorded the webinar together, did the webinar with that customer as a part of our advocacy efforts. And later on, we actually worked with her and her team to get the extension of the project and implement the complete funnel. So as you can see, there are a lot of steps, there are different channels involved. And this is not to say that these are the channels that your buyers are using. These are the channels that were being used by our buyer in this specific case, right? And so you can see how there is a huge mismatch between the way that companies want to sell and between the way that buyers actually buy.
And to wrap it up, as you guys can clearly see, the buying journey is not linear, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't influence it. And that's exactly the goal of demand generation and demand capturing. Demand generation is a buzzword. Lots of people are talking about it, but rarely you'll see practical definitions. What does it mean? Question to you guys. Share with us in a chat, how do you define B2B demand generation? What is it? Would love to hear your thoughts.
It's a difficult question. People need time to compose the answer, I think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have some time. I would love to see how fellow B2B marketers define it. AIDA, but probably old Dutch. Thanks, Andrew.
Hey, Andrew.
Well, any other thoughts?
Same as lead generation. I think this is a lot of discussion on LinkedIn about the difference between lead gen and demand gen. I don't think we need to go down that rabbit hole.
Absolutely no. Mindy, marketing strategy and distribution that generates interest and demand for a product or service. Love it. Adnan, ability to create awareness of your brand using an inbound approach. Good one. Thank you. Peggy, using your content to generate interest in your brand and products. Love it. Vitor, problem solution brand awareness. Nice one. Saif, targeted brand awareness that leads to revenue in both short term and long term. Building brand awareness, driving demand, educating audience rather than capturing it. Finding and getting in touch with a qualified buyer. Love, great examples, guys. So the way how we define it, and I will quickly share with you. So lots of things you already mentioned, but just to wrap it up, B2B demand gen is a mix of organic and paid programs to create awareness in the target market, attract the attention of target buyers, and make them curious about your product. Educate them about potentially new ways of getting jobs to be done, actually done. Create demand for your product, and also influence the buying committee to actually select your product, to select you as a vendor, right? So this is what it stands for. And what we are going to share with you next is the core pillars of B2B demand generation. But before we'll share it with you, I would love to run one more poll and ask guys, how satisfied are you with your demand generation strategy? So I'm launching this poll. Please vote and share with us. How satisfied are you with your demand generation strategy? I would stop sharing for a moment and we'll share the results. once you'll be voting. Okay, so let's see. One person voted for, 2 people voted for create. So frustrated. We have been trying different things, and while we generate traffic and leads, the conversion into real sales opportunities is low. Dissatisfied. We just post corporate press releases, run ads, and share articles from a blog that generate neither engagement nor any revenue results. And this is actually what we see with Vlad quite often. What is called demand generation is not actually the strategy that drives revenue and drives meaningful results. So thanks a lot for sharing this. Hope the points that we'll share with you today, guys, will help you to improve your demand gen strategy and get more results out of it. So let's come back to our slides. We have B2B demand gen core pillars, right? And if we look at these core pillars, we have 3 key activities. The first one is demand activities. I won't dive deeply here. I will just present these activities because during the next slides, we'll share with you practical examples. The first one, let's say the first pillar, and the way how we look at it as a demand generation waterfall. So we have the demand activities, and there are multiple ways how you can create awareness, starting from podcasts, social media, thought leadership, blog content, webinars, the one that you are listening to right now, micro events, conferences, newsletters, anything basically that can help to educate target buyers, attract their attention, right, and make them aware of your company. The next point is usually missed in most of the process, and it stands for the distribution. It's not enough to publish something on LinkedIn, and it's not enough just to say, hey, so we wrote a new blog post, so please go and read our awesome blog post. It's not enough just to publish it on your blog and wait for the traffic. You need to distribute this content. And the way how you can distribute, we see 3 main ways. You have your own audience. That could be your newsletter, your podcast, right? All the assets where people are listening to you. Lots of you sign up or have heard about this webinar from LinkedIn. Some of you have seen my email, correct? And this is exactly what we mean by your own assets. Next, you have borrowed audience. Platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, all social, they have this audience that they can basically help you to amplify your message and make your target market aware of the demand assets that you have created on the first stage, right? But at the same time, you have borrowed audience, you have partners. So in our case, we partner with tech companies like Lemlist, like Expandy, like SparkToro, and Leadfeeder, Albacross, for example. These are the companies that serve the same audience, and they help us to spread the message, to basically reach out to their audience with the content. And you can also do it proactively if you don't have any active partnerships. You can do it with the guest posts. You can do it with basically also reaching out to or creating this kind of content collaboration with these companies. And that's the way to amplify your reach. And finally, you have social and communities, right? Communities don't treat it literally. So it's not only about, I don't know, LinkedIn groups or Slack communities. It could be also niche associations. It could be different offline communities where your target audience hangs out, right? And social, obviously, LinkedIn can give you a fantastic opportunity to boost your content and promote it to your target audience. And all of these activities create the engagement signals, right? Or engagement intent. And this is what we mean by demand capturing. You need to define the engagement threshold. Basically, what does it mean to call an account engaged and capture it? And this is what we are going to share with you today, step by step. So, Vlad, giving word to you. You are muted, sorry.
It's switching here microphones. I don't know why. I'm back on. All right. Let's dive in. If you can switch to the next slide. It's all about the steps that you need to take to create and launch a B2B demand generation from scratch. And we did a more in-depth podcast on this, but it all actually starts with the understanding of the buying process. If you remember at the beginning of this session, I shared with you the steps that our buyers went through to buy the product. So by understanding all these steps, I can now start selling the way that they're actually buying, instead of trying to push everybody into my funnel and get essentially a mismatch between the way they're buying, the way that are. So how do we go about understanding the buying journey? Well, the first part of it is customer research. So what you need to do is you need to identify who your ICP is and start interviewing the customers to start understanding what is triggering their buying journey, because unlike a lot of B2B companies may think, the buyer journey doesn't really start with a click on a website or with a social media post. The buyer journey starts somewhere before. What does it mean? Well, in the example that I shared, there was a trigger, internal trigger, when there was a missed second quarter in a row, the prospect has missed the targets. And that's what actually started the whole buyer journey in them searching for a solution. Then they start analyzing the problem, understanding that. So you want to understand, like, what are all the things? Who do they ask for advice? Where are they trying to learn? Who are they following? Who are they actually, how are they starting to discover the solutions? What other solutions they're looking at? What other types of solutions before they choose to work, to choose your category and your specific solution? How do they evaluate it? What are some of the red flags? What are the purchase criteria? All of these things is what you need to understand, how your buyers are actually moving through the process. Next, what kind of questions do they have at each stage? And also, what kind of objections do they have, especially as they start evaluating your solution category? Buyers usually have some objections. You want to understand them. Finally, also what you want to understand, because in B2B complex sales process, you're faced with multiple buyers with the so-called buying committee. So you want to understand the different buy roles that people have there and what their specific maybe goals, objections are, so that you can actually impact the whole buying committee. Now that you have these insights, you start thinking about, okay, how can I help buyers at each stage? What are the most critical questions that I have, and what kind of content or activity, what kind of content should I create, and what kind of activity can I do at this stage to influence them, help them answer their questions, address their objections, and actually help them move through this buying process. So that is the first step. Next.
So the next one is basically start with the first layer of demand generation waterfall, right? Basically, how are you going to create awareness on your target market? So we always try to structure different approaches, and the way how we see any B2B company can create the awareness is by leveraging 4 pillars. These 4 pillars stands for the content collaboration, the social engagement, the events, and the paid promo. You don't need, obviously, to launch all of these things, right? So we present the 4 core big pillars. And one of the honest, let's say, opinions or takeaways I can share with you is that you don't need 50 different tactics. Nail down 5, 6 different campaigns that work really well and excel at them. So look at these 4 pillars and define what are the key activities you can select and just do them. It's the first step, right? So when it comes to content collaboration, you can invite your target buyers to join your podcast as guests, and you can get lots of unique insights. You can interview some of your ICPs, involve some thought leaders, and turn this into guest posts and publish, even if, let's say, even if you are serving a very specific, very conservative market, you can publish it as a guest post on your market association website. So another way, you can do kind of partnership webinars. Last year, we have done lots of them with Goldcast team, so the platform that we are using right now for the broadcast, with Alice, so the software to send, with Nick Bennett from Alice. We did it with Lemlist, with Expandy, with Happier Leads. And the best way of doing these partnership webinars is co-promoting these events and basically inviting to audiences, right? Which is a win-win for both sides. Next one is social engagement. Obviously, it works for the companies whose target audience is active on social, right? And even if you don't want to jump, you don't have bandwidth or capacity to do the thought leadership, the lowest hanging fruit is joining the conversations by posting meaningful comments and then moving these conversations from the comments to inbox, right? You can, anytime somebody from your target accounts or from the thought leaders in your space post an actionable content, you can join the discussion, you can leave your opinions, you can ask additional questions, you can target additional people, and basically keep the conversation going. This is the lowest hanging fruit to attract attention, right? Sometimes, as you can see, community engagement and ask me anything sessions are perfect fit. And even, let's say, even if your market doesn't have the Slack communities or LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups, right? Quite often you can partner with niche association and co-host events. So we have one of our customers is serving healthcare organizations in the United States, and one of the key channels to drive revenue and opportunities was exactly sponsoring the healthcare association and basically getting co-hosting webinars with them. So the association took care of promoting these webinars to healthcare leaders. So this is one of the lowest hanging fruits. Next, you have these events, right? You can do micro offline events. Even if you don't have subject matter experts in-house, you can always find a thought leader, pay for a gig, right, and invite your target accounts to attend that event. And this is where you can connect. You can host your own summits like our annual Fullfunnel summit, and you can do the webinars like this one. And the last one is the paid promo. But before you start the paid promo, make sure that your content already resonates with your target market. It doesn't make sense to promote content via paid channels that is not proven, that is not validated. So two questions here. When it comes to paid promotion, why would you recommend leveraging only case study and top performing content? So it's I mean, you can test. Obviously, I'm not saying that I'm against testing. I'm saying if you have budget and buy-in and support for experimentation, feel free to do it. But in most cases, especially for companies that don't do it, right, they are just at the beginning of their demand generation programs. If they would experiment with the content that doesn't resonate with target market, I'm just saying from practical experience, these marketers will get lots of questions from their executives. So that's the point. I suggest, first of all, to validate organic content, right? You can get organic reach if it happens. If you get engagement from target accounts, later you can repurpose this content. And once the program is proven, right, then you can start experimenting with other messages. That's exactly my point. Let's move to the second layer, Vlad. Can you explain?
Absolutely. And there was a question also between demand capture that it's, I think, a good moment to answer from Adnan. What is the difference between generation and demand capture? So I think this will become very clear with this slide, but essentially you're with the demand capture, capturing the existing demand. So people are aware that the solution like yours exists. They know that they have an urgent need to implement that solution. They're looking for that solution right now, and you're kept that demand in the other in what words exist, and you're now capturing that demand, right? Before you wanted to share, did you want to share that, Paul, right now, or
We'll do it later.
After. Okay, so what are the different ways in which you can capture the demand, right? There's the most fundamental thing is that you want to understand is that if people are ready to buy from you, if buyers are ready to buy from you, they're going to reach out to you, they're going to find that, book a demo meeting, they know how to reach out to you, and they will book a call or whatever your next step is, do the free trial, etc. So your job, actually, the first job you want to do is you want to make this as easy as possible. Identify any so-called friction points in the sales funnel and remove them, right? Make it easy for them to buy, right? Now, what happens if the buyers are not yet ready? Should we just wait for them to get ready? And that's what actually a lot of these activities are about. They're about being proactive and working on moving that demand from, the demand and interest in that solution to an actual sales opportunity, right? So what we see here are a bunch of different ways in which you can do this. So you can essentially treat all these demand generation activities that Andrei just shared with you as actually they create engagement and they create interest. So people are coming, people are checking out your website. Maybe you were sharing some content and promoting the content. They came to your website, are checking some key pages on your website. They are, spending some time there. They are engaging with your LinkedIn content. They are joining your webinars, etc. So these are all engagement signals. Now you can turn those engagement signals into actual conversations. So first of all, you can use retargeting, people visiting, for example, your website. You can retarget those people with messages that are, let's say, more about the case studies and the success stories and product information and benefits and all of these things that should create more demand and interest in your product. And basically, you can also start promoting maybe some call to actions, and this is where you can start booking maybe your first demos or discovery calls. You can use intent data or high intent page visits, basically to reach out proactively, or use them to qualify the accounts that you should add to your so-called warm-up account-based marketing plays, and actually proactively go and start to activate these accounts. We will, there was a question about content hubs, and we are mentioning content hubs here. We are actually going to share an example, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. Just wanted to share, basically, the content hubs allow you to create a collection of content. They come with content analytics that you can again use as intent data, essentially, right? Product-related webinars, product-related free courses, which are launched via email, with personalized call to actions. This is something that works quite well for us. Then I mentioned also, removing friction. For example, you want to make sure that it's as easy as possible to book a call with you, and that there is as little, information that you're asking there as possible on all the rest. Hopefully rely on some sort of software otherwise to enrich this information. And also social selling, especially if you have started your awareness creation on social platforms such as LinkedIn. You have a perfect opportunity to turn that engagement into a conversation, start conversing with them, sharing, again, what you normally would do maybe in retargeting, you can also do in one-on-one chats, sharing case studies, starting conversations, asking them about their focus, challenges, etc., and moving that conversations towards an actual qualification call. So these are some of the ways in which we can capture demand, and I hope it's clear to everybody what is the difference between demand generation, demand capture. So I would really appreciate if you just gave us like a plus or a minus if everything we told you so far is clear, because we want to share also more details and examples Just want to make sure that the basic is clear for everybody and that the difference is also clear as well. Thank you very much. It seems everybody is getting it.
And I just want to also give you a few points here. There is no passive demand generation. Quite often, I'm listening to conversations on LinkedIn, and I'm seeing some folks are firstly promoting that demand generation is all about ungated content, and basically all you need is just to wait for the inbound opportunities. Obviously, inbound opportunities are the consequence of your demand generation program. But let's be honest, you can't make a forecast on a passive function. You can't say, hey, so next month we can expect, I don't know, like 50 inbound opportunities. Next, you are not controlling the quality of inbound opportunities. And this is what I never see somebody who promotes demand generation. I never see that this is being mentioned. You can't control the quality of inbound opportunities, and you can't say, especially with the organic programs, that your content will reach out to your ICPs, right? So that's why demand capturing is really important. And ideally, if you'll build a cohesive model blending demand generation and account-based marketing. One more important thing, something that we mentioned in the beginning, if you remember the slide about how most B2B companies are marketing, right? So lots of them use these linear funnels. Let's say somebody sign up for the webinar, and then everybody reaches out, and basically the list is sent to sales, and then sales are reaching out and trying to pitch the product. Now, let me ask you a question. For example, let's pretend all of you are interested in, if we are selling, I don't know, B2B demand generation service or B2B demand gen product, doesn't really matter. And let's pretend all of you who are listening to us are potentially interested in it. But some of you already have success with demand generation. So basically, you don't need any help with your program. So what's the point of SDR reaching out to you and trying to pitch the product? Makes no sense. And this is obviously not the goal of webinars. The goals of webinars is exactly to create the demand, making people being interested. And the goal of progressive profiling is understanding where you are, collecting more details. So for example, we made 2 polls. How are you satisfied with your demand generation strategy? And we see the difference, right? The same, are you going to launch or you already running demand generation, right? So this, even if, I mean, we don't want to do it, but let's pretend if we were willing to later reach out and pitch you, then we understand, okay, so this group of people are not running demand generation. So potentially we need to personalize our outreach about making it all about how to launch B2B demand generation, right? Just to give you a few ideas. The best way to continue to leverage this information and continue with demand generation is also boosting, let's say, if you have good content, you can boost this audience, you can continue targeting on LinkedIn, or you can continue with manual conversations on LinkedIn, right? So for example, reaching out and saying, hey, saw your vote. So you stopped the demand generation program. What has happened? Or let's say why you are not satisfied with your demand generation program. And this is what social selling stands for. It's not about, hey, I saw that you attended the webinar, let me pitch you my product. You can dive deeply, you can understand the needs of your target buyers and then try to help. And you clearly see that this is a team play, right? It requires a mutual collaboration between marketing and sales team. This is really important. So that being said, let's move to the last part, which is the most actionable, I believe, because we shared with you the framework, right, which belongs to theory. Now, we promised to share our Fullfunnel.io case study. When we launched the company, we just had 2 full-time employees, me and Vlad. But you see these 2 full-time employees right now on your screens. And in the first year, we launched the company from scratch. We didn't have audience, and we generated 72 inbound opportunities, over 1 million in inbound pipeline from demand generation in the first year of business. So what we are going to do is to present the key activities that we did and how they performed for us. So Vlad, would you present the stats?
Sure. So like Andrei mentioned, we launched back in September 2020, just over 2 years ago. Sorry, my head keeps getting bigger and smaller. I'm not doing anything. Anyhow, so, and like Andrei mentioned, we had an unknown brand. Nobody was talking really about full funnel B2B marketing. And that was our idea as well, to use that as a category and start promoting this approach. And since then, with us, like Andrei mentioned, 2 FTEs working basically part-time on this, because we were also building products, consulting our clients, building our business. What we did was we generated in total 174 opportunities. I think the 72 that we were just like updating the stats came over the last 12 months, the 5-figure opportunities, which came inbound. We grown our LinkedIn following to more than 40K followers. So the company page didn't exist. I had been connected to only, let's say, my ex-colleagues. Andrei was already a bit active on LinkedIn, but we started with quite a low number. We grew our newsletter to 11,000 subscribers. And I think the best part of this is that we never really promoted it in any way. Actually, this was pure organic growth. People recommend our content, and just because they like the content, that's how the subscribers grew there. We launched a bunch of events and had, I think by now it's probably more than 10,000 subscribers for our events. We landed speaking gigs at dozens of events and podcasts: AdWord, B2B Growth, Founder 500, Nathan Latka had 3 episodes with us, I think, with 2 with Andrei and 1 recently with myself. And we got published by a lot of different publications, such as IXL, Marketing Profs, Terminus, but a few more publications as well. And by doing all of this, we not only have generated, of course, these business results, but I think as well in the 2 years established ourselves as go-to experts when it comes to ABM and full funnel B2B marketing, right? And we did it with a very focused audience of B2B tech companies with long, complex sales cycles. Now, just wanted to share very quickly how our calendar looks like, and just wanted 2 very quick points before I dive in. First of all, a lot of people, when they see this complex buying journey, think, what I need to do is I need to make some sort of a sophisticated funnel with technology and attribution. I don't know what to model this buying behavior, but that's not really necessary, and that's not how it works. Actually, what you need is you need a calendar of marketing activities. You need to pick a few channels, focus on them, make sure that you master those before moving to the other ones. And you need to just consistent marketing activities on the channels, on your priority channels. And of course, you need to close the loop. You need not only to do the awareness, but also to capture the demand, as we explained, right? So, and what I'm trying to say, even though the buyer journey is complex, your marketing and sales need not be. Right. So let's look at the calendar of the activities to create awareness. We do a number of activities daily. Both Andrei and myself share a daily post on LinkedIn every working day. Andrei is also doing his Twitter. We also have our B2B marketing community, the trenches, where we're engaging daily and getting new members and conversations there. So these are like ongoing activities which create awareness, thought leadership, and which also help us promote the other ones. So next to that, we have a weekly newsletter. We mentioned our newsletter. We actually have 2 newsletters. We have one for Full Funnel and one for Trenches. We also have weekly live podcasts where we speak to thought leaders. We do co-creation. Thought leaders, we sometimes run partner webinars or interview partner brands there. So we kind of exchange audience and with co-marketing. The easiest way to build your audience is to tap into the existing audience, essentially, right? And then we have monthly webinars like this one, where we dive deeper and share guides, frameworks, and educate the market in a more deep way. Quarterly, we run workshops and boot camps, always on a different topic. And twice a year, we run our summit, which this year, back in March, had, I believe, almost 6,000 subscribers on that event alone. So these are the activities that we run. So what is next on?
Yeah, so let me navigate you through again the main pillars, right, and share exactly what we are doing. Let's look again at this demand generation waterfall. So awareness, demand generation, and demand capturing, right? And let's start with the first one, with the awareness. As Vlad said, the core pillar for us is LinkedIn thought leadership, and there are basically lots of positive outcomes. Obviously, aside from brand awareness, what we are doing is actively engaging with 4 audiences, with our ICPs, with the thought leaders in our space, with, let's say, marketing consultants and marketing agencies as well, who enjoy our content. They are not our ICP, but just because they are connected with our target accounts as well, this engagement helps to boost our content presence, right? And we engage also with the niche media, with podcast hosts who are talking about B2B marketing, account-based marketing, B2B demand gen, with people who are running their newsletters and run their communities. Why? Because then we get media invites, which again helps us to expand our brand presence. And with thought leaders, it helps to get additional reach, and with meaningful comments, what I already said, right? It helps to boost your presence to their audience, and obviously it all amplifies our content results. In case sometimes people are questioning, so what are the outcomes, right? Like we did the stats, we are posting niche content. We are not posting cats or crying selfies on LinkedIn, or I don't know, like motivational marketing stuff, something like the life is too short to work for CEO who doesn't get marketing. So we are not for that, not really good content. We post actionable frameworks. We want to generate demand. We believe that content exists not to satisfy masses, but to generate demand for your product. And you can see the reach, right? So 16% of our engagers are founders, then marketing managers, co-founders, marketing directors, and CEOs. Exactly the job roles that we want to reach with our content. And the same, by the way, with the markets. If we look at the next slide, we actually did an analysis of all of our opportunities. You know that I'm a big fan of a blended attribution model, which stands for the self-attribution, like how did you hear about us, digital traces, and customer interviews. But even if looking at this self-attribution, how did you hear about us, you can clearly see that social has the biggest impact on pipeline and revenue. Actually, in the first year, 91% of all inbound opportunities mentioned LinkedIn as the key channel where they have heard about us for the first time. Now that number decreased because of other sources, and especially great opportunities that are coming from recommendations of well-known thought leaders. This is basically one of the fantastic outcomes of the good thought leadership program. But you see the results from it. Next, what we do is we never outsource content creation. Both of us are subject matter experts, and we have in total 8 or 9 articles in our blog, but these are long reads. They are very well researched. We also get on quotes from thought leaders, from clients, from ICPs. So that is every single article is an in-depth, comprehensive answer to a specific question. For example, how to create a go-to-market strategy, or ABM campaign case study, which reveals all the nitty-gritty details about the campaign, not just like a short version. Hey, so we did ABM, we ran display ads, and then we reached out to everybody and generated the results. No, we share everything, all the materials that we use, and this helps us to, even without proactively growing SEO or search engine optimization function, it gets us decent organic traffic from Google, because this most of these articles are ranking on this from the first to the third page of Google, right, which creates the organic awareness. And when we promote this content, it generates opportunities for us. The next one, fantastic pillar that drastically turned the things for us in terms of awareness and demand generation results, is weekly live Fullfunnel podcast. By the way, guys, quick question. Type in a Zoom chat, type 1 if you have ever attended one of these Fullfunnel live episodes, which we are hosting in Zoom every week, aside from the summer time. Type 1 or type 0 if you have never attended, just curious to see. So, oh, yeah. Lots of people are still not attending. So, I I know what to do. I need to send you the link. But jokes aside, so what we did, and you can see the results, right? I was thinking, everybody is running the podcast in our space, and usually these are standard pre-recorded interviews, and then everybody creates video snippets and try to tease our audience on LinkedIn and promote the episode, and it's extremely hard to get the attention. So I was thinking about this one day, and I was thinking, how can I make it more valuable for the community, since we are inviting fantastic guests that have lots of experience, and then they can share lots of actionable advice. How can I make it more beneficial for the community? So we decided to host live episodes, inviting our guests, and we usually run live experiments. We show live examples, and this drastically changed these things. So even if you look at the last 4 podcast episodes, we had almost 1,200 signups, right? And these are organic signups. We are not boosting this with, let's say, paid options, and that's the difference, right? It's helped us drastically to boost our presence, audience, and as a result, we are not actively, promoting Spotify or iTunes channels, but people, after attending these events, they organically sign up, rate the podcast, and we grow the presence there as well. Another fantastic benefit is that we can repurpose this content. We can extract the insights from these conversations and create new LinkedIn posts, new newsletters, and turn the best, let's say, episodes into the webinars. So these were the key activities when it comes to creating awareness, right? We tried also to separate demand generation function. So basically what we use to create demand for our services. And I think, Vlad, you can present this, right?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of the activities that you described during awareness are already starting to create demand. What I'm trying to say is that, of course, as you're educating your buyers about the approach, like things like ABM, they start thinking about you and associating you with that solution, with that category, let's say. And so whenever they might need that, we'll be thinking of you. So actually, the earlier you start with the awareness, the earlier you will start also with the demand generation, increase of chance of them considering your product, right? But like very specifically, how we can accelerate this demand generation is by sharing our case studies. And just to like make it very simple and very clear for everybody, when we talk about demand generation, we mean generating demand for your product. So you can't generate demand for your product if you're not talking about your product, if people are not aware of what your product does. Now, you can just talk about your product and how cool it is and the features that it has and how good you are, but actually that people are not genuinely interested in that. So what we found works really well is detailed case studies. And when I say case studies, a lot of people think of these 1-2 pagers that companies publish as kind of a checklist. Okay, let's check. We put some case studies on our website, and you see them and know why they're there. They're there just because you need to see that they have worked with that client. You know what you will get there. You go there, you say, oh, this was a problem, this was a solution, and look at how great we are, right? Now, what we mean by case studies in this specific case is actually it's essentially a guide. So when you read that case study, you should learn how this approach works. You should learn exactly what the steps are. You should really understand exactly, who needs to be involved, when you can expect results, what kind of results you can expect. So really details that are very educational for the buyers to read, right? So just to qualify that, right? And these case studies, you can distribute them in different ways. One of the ways that works great is, like we mentioned, in private messages. We also have our weekly newsletter on the clock. Andre, every Friday, is going to send out our newsletter. And we use the newsletter as well to generate demand in different ways, because we segment the people, the subscribers of the newsletter, and do the so-called progressive profiling. So learning more about their needs and challenges. We can personalize both the content that we are sending, and the call to actions that we use at the bottom. And as well, because remember, like, the majority of the market is not buying and is not ready to buy. So part of the demand generation is nurturing, right? You're nurturing your customers, buyers, in fact, over time, so that they are thinking, you're sowing the seeds in their mind. And so when they're becoming ready, when there is an internal trigger or something else happening, they will be thinking of you. And this is what you can see here, right? So this is something that happens very often. People responding, and sometimes they say things like, okay, you didn't let me forget. I've been following your newsletter for more than a year, and finally, okay, we really think we should be working together. So another part.
It's just actually, sorry for interrupting you, it's just actually the outcome of a good newsletter, right? Lots of people I'm hearing quite often, hey, but newsletters are dead, nobody is reading them. But I would give you one hint, guys. Your target audience might not be hanging out on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, Reddit, you name it. But guess what do they check every single day? And now with every piece of content that you create, you need to differentiate yourself. The same we did with our newsletter. We found unique format. We use different contents that we publish on LinkedIn, and what resonates with people, I add just more details. I make it more meaty. So every single newsletter we treat as a micro blog. So people read and get actionable insights and value. And as an outcome, some of them are sharing it on social and do the promotion instead of us. That's why Vlad mentioned we never promote our newsletter. I mean, we don't make dedicated posts about it.
Now, another very important piece of the puzzle there in terms of demand generation is webinars. And again, a lot of companies, when they do webinars, unfortunately, a lot of webinars suck because they are kind of masking as educational, but really they're product pitches. When we talk about webinars being used as part of the demand generation, again, it's all about being educational and really diving deeper into the approach. In this case, for example, we have been talking about how to create B2B marketing strategy. Today, we are talking about how to do B2B demand generation, right? So we are diving deeper. We are sharing real examples, step-by-step frameworks, and giving a ton of value to people. But also, of course, because the examples that we're using are either from our clients or are our own, we are without ever really without any self-promotion, we are natively basically mentioning our solution and our approach, so that people who are interested, of course, they know that they can reach to us. We don't have to say, okay, buy here is a link, etc.
One quick thing, just don't take our words literally. Let's do a quick check. So regarding the webinars, how do you enjoy this webinar so far? Type anything. You can share your favorite emoji, rocket, fire, maybe shit if you don't like it. Everything is fine. Just share with us your feedback. How do you like it?
Thank you. This is lovely. A small unicorn. Thank you very much, Adnan. Thank you.
Yeah, first time I've been asked to put an emoji. No, you can put whatever you want. So emoji is not really important. But jokes aside, thanks a lot for the feedback, guys. Appreciate it. So let's move, because we already spent 1 hour and we have few more slides to share with you. Let's move forward. So 2 more things that we have here is the social engagement and then the content collaboration. So if you can quickly cover this.
Yeah, sure. Very happy to. So essentially, Andres mentioned this several times. On LinkedIn, it's not just, and other social, it's not just about sharing your content and driving thought leadership, but actually having conversations. I mean, it's a social network after all, right? And the best way to do that is starting in comments, so by sharing thoughtful and meaningful comments, or sharing comments on your target buyers' posts, or starting a conversation in comments that are starting around your posts. What you want to do is you want to start a conversation in comments, move it to the private messaging and DM, and start or continue the conversation there. By doing that, driving through that conversation, driving demand and booking discovery calls. And one of the things, and maybe you can switch immediately there to the next slide, Andre, is you mentioned, Andre, if you can.
The content collaboration.
Yeah, content collaboration. So that's another way in which we can, and Andre mentioned some of the results. We actually worked with Expandy on a piece of content market research that we did. No, actually it was a guide that we wrote together. But we also launched some partner webinars together with them. It was actually after that one of those partner webinars that I got 2 sales calls booked. One was closed just the day after the webinar. That doesn't happen often, but it did happen back then. And so, content collaboration allows you also, of course, to get exposed to audience of other people. And you can also invite prospects to collaborate on a piece of content, get to know them, talk about their challenges, talk about their priorities, learn all about whether there is a need, and if there is a need and they've been engaging, there is some intent, they've shared some information with you, then you can of course have a conversation about that. It's not salesy, but saying things like, for example, you mentioned that you are struggling with that challenge, and if you're interested, I'll be happy to walk you through the case study of how we helped another client who was in a similar situation solve that problem. You see how that works in both ways. So that is all the initiatives I think that we shared about content collaboration, about demand generation.
Yeah, these are the main activities, so we don't want to dive in because we are running the experiments, and I could say, hey, I'm posting on Twitter, but since Twitter doesn't bring any results so far, aside from good connections with some thought leaders, which I was able to build on Twitter, there are no actionable results, so we don't want to dive into that tactics, right? So that's why I'm saying focus, nail down maybe 5 to 8 key programs that bring the results, focus 80% of your time on them, and then spend 20% on experimentation. So the last part is demand capture, and I told you guys I don't believe in just passive demand generation. I believe in a cohesive model. Demand generation creates engagement triggers. then you can find the accounts that hit the engagement threshold, and the way how you can do it, right? One of these ways is the content hubs. There was a question about this, and you will have a practical experience. We'll send you this content hub. Just the promise, we are not going to follow up with you. That would be just for you to have a real-time experience. So for this specific webinar, we'll send you a content hub, so you'll see how it looks like. But the outcomes, we use it because we have product-related content hubs, like you can see this one, ABM case studies. We have the same for go-to-market strategy, for B2B demand generation. Then we create for our target accounts, we create dedicated content hubs for them, right? And that's the point. We can track the content consumption, like you can see on the right screenshot. We can see who exactly engaged with our content, how much time did they spend, what slides did they check, etc. So the software we use it is called Paperflight. And obviously once we have these insights, we can see if the account is engaged enough, and then we can just follow up with additional questions. Again, just to emphasize, we are not pitching, but we are reaching out, like, was it helpful? Do you have any questions? Can I help you in any other ways? You can also identify the visitors that are checking your high intent pages. For example, as you can see, there is a company that visited our consultant page, basically where they can book a call with us. And also they checked go-to-market strategy guide. I don't need to be David Copperfield just to make an assumption that this company potentially is interested in refining their go-to-market strategy. And after the guide, they checked the guide first, and then they decided to see how we can help, right? So then I can reach out to these people and ask a question like, is it your top priority? You already have seen the slides, right? How we ask this question. So is it something that you plan to do, etc.? And you just initiate the conversation. So, and this is like the final example, the social selling, right? How did you like our GTM strategy guide? Was it helpful? Did you find what you were looking for? This is the following example for the previous slide, right? And then I'm saying we have a bunch of resources on developing a GTM strategy, and recently hosted a webinar. Can share if you're interested. Otherwise, if you have any questions, I'm here to help. And then have to ask that, should there be a case, are you open to collaborate on a client case? Sometimes you don't even need to push, right? This is the same function that retargeting does, right? So you just reach out, you initiate this conversation, you connect on the personal level, and quite often your target prospects that already hit the engagement threshold will reply, yeah, I'm interested, and then share with you basically or agree on the next steps. So that's it from our side. You shared with us feedback. Thank you so much. I want to run one more poll, guys, and ask you, let's see this one. So considering everything that we have shared with you, what parts of your B2B demand generation strategy do you think can be improved? You see lots of votes. I would share it with you. So please share with us what do you think can be improved. And let's see. You have lots of votes here, so feel free to.
Yeah, lots of options indeed.
Yeah, produce content that is actually interesting for our buyers. It should resonate with them, educate, nurture, and generate demand for our product. You have these predefined options because we collected these, let's say, inputs from our clients. These are, by the way, I see, yeah, this is the number one, produce content. They always say this is the huge problem. Next one is content distribution and consistency. That's exactly as we assumed with Vlad. These are three main problems almost every B2B company faces. Yeah, so these are the main leaders: consistency and demand generation, operations, content distribution, and producing content that resonates with the buyers. So the question for you guys, as we mentioned, you saw the slide, maybe just share it one more time. We host quarter live bootcamps where we work with B2B tech companies that are not our one-on-one clients. We navigate them through the process, how we created this B2B demand gen strategy for us and how we create this for our clients. Would you like to learn more to see how we are doing this with other students and clients? Type yes or plus, whatever you prefer. Good, thank you so much. So I think then Vlad can present this program, and then we'll have some time for Q&A to cover your questions. So Vlad, pass on mic to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to share this without really, if you're interested, wanting to share more detail about the upcoming bootcamp and how we do our bootcamps and why this might be interesting for you. So we are doing one about full funnel demand generation, actually guiding a group of B2B companies through the process that we have just described with you. And it's going to start soon in November. It's going to run for 4 weeks. Andre, if you can, 4 weeks. Actually, it's all about action and implementation, and we are going to help the companies who join there implement, I think it's like 6 different activities, omnichannel activities to generate and capture demand, raise brand awareness, of course, and finally increase the marketing source pipeline. It's essentially 8 live workshops. I think there are actually 10. We added some bonus sessions as well, right? And I think what's really cool, and this is at least what the people who attended our bootcamp say, is that also the community aspect of it, next to this practical implementation, actually getting work done, is actually getting access to this community to see how other people are doing that, and to get, honestly, some additional accountability and motivation to do this, because like somebody mentioned, is one of the challenges. You can go next, Andre. Next still. So you know the framework, we just shared it with you. We can move on. I think here that we based our course based on that. And the main outcomes that we want our students to have, the participants of the bootcamp, is to, obviously, they will generate, improve the brand awareness, and also positioning with the ideal accounts and buyers in the target market. What's really important is that they will get their marketing message delivered and be able to demonstrate the value of the product and value and the position of your company in a way that positions you as a trusted advisor instead of yet another annoying vendor trying to get the attention. And I think one of the key outcomes as well is having a clear demand generation calendar to run the multiple activities in a consistent way, which is like a key. Have, of course, a clear idea about what kind of content to produce based on the real insights from the buyers, based on research, not based on guessing, and also a process to distribute that content to get it in the hands of the right buyers, instead of publishing content that nobody reads or watches or follows. And actually, like I mentioned, it's always very actionable. So we aim to launch a number of activities, I think up to 6 different activities there. You will implement the calendar. Some of the activities that we mentioned today, we'll share with you our a webinar playbook, how to position your webinars so that they stand out, how to make them engaging, how to generate demand, how to follow up after the webinars, all of these things. We will also teach you how to start thought leadership on the target social media, and how to get, if you don't have a newsletter, how to launch it, or how to improve the results that you're getting from the newsletter, right? Also, if you have a podcast, or you can start a podcast to build relationships with target accounts, we'll show you how we do this, and we'll, walk you through the process of doing it yourselves. We are also going to work on the content hubs, and I think we had this twice, developing content distribution to get your content in front of the real buyers. But I think I mentioned that already. So essentially, all of the things that we mentioned today are going to be there packed during that bootcamp. And I don't think it's for everybody. I think it only makes sense for companies who have, higher ACV, annual contract value. I don't think it makes sense for companies who are selling like $50 a month kind of products. Usually, if you have an annual deal value of, between 20, 30K and into six figures, up to into six figures, it makes sense. It makes sense for people who really want to go to the next level, develop the skills that will help you lead the team, because you're also learn about the strategy, how to think about and how to set up the programs, not just individual campaigns. And if it's important for you, of course, at this stage, to improve your demand generation, to raise awareness, get the attention of target accounts, and educate and nurture them so that they buy your product. This bootcamp is not for you if you're looking for some sort of hacks or tactics. We have to be honest. We are not going to share any very quick wins and stuff with you. There are maybe sometimes some quick wins, but no quick win systems to, just follow this system and you'll get leads on autopilot. That doesn't work, or we at least don't believe in it. Never saw it work in this context. You saw the dates. It's starting relatively soon, in 3 weeks. It goes for 4 weeks, and it's essentially 2 90-minute sessions every Tuesday and Thursday, where we work together. Of course, all the sessions are recorded, and there is an ongoing support. You can share anything you create with us. We give you feedback. You ask any questions on Slack during the sessions, via email, whatever, and they all get answered. Example result, well, you saw results from our campaigns. Maybe you can share some other results if you go to the next slide from some of the other clients. Usually these results come within, let's say in this case, within 3 to 6 months. The left case was 6 months, the other case was, I think, even between 3 months, but normally these results come a little bit later. But it's all about not only generating opportunities, but actually generating better kind of opportunities. Like you see, for example, in the case of on the left hand side, you see that the average deal size went 10 times up. So this is one of the consequences of demand generation, and not just doing demand capture. So I mentioned this several times. How is this bootcamp different? It's not about passive listening or passive learning. It's all about action. Actually, every session you get something done. You actually launch activities, start some campaigns, and you really it's basically work with us. We give you any help, support, feedback. And with other marketers, a lot of people really appreciate that part, getting inspired and learning from the others. Sometimes you get questions you didn't think to ask, and really start mastering this process. In next one, Andre. Yeah, of course, like you saw it, we always share real examples. We don't share some theoretical ones. We share examples from our case, from ourselves, from our clients. So instead of just spewing out theory, we'll walk you through concrete detailed step-by-step cases, so you can really see how things are really working in reality. And instead of just teaching you one piece of the puzzle, as you saw today, we are going to teach you a full approach, because it's not because you have one tactic nail and because you have some sort of a magic script that it works.
Oh, you are muted. We lost you. Anyhow, so the last question was about the price and the way we charge. For these bootcamps, we have several options. Option number one is just for individuals. When, let's say, a B2B marketer or demand gen marketer joins from the company, and the tuition cost is $1K. Then we have team package for $2,750, and the one-to-one support, which has unlimited seats, to one-on-one consultations with us, and 2 extra weeks of Q&A and support. So for the folks who are joining this webinar, we don't we don't make the fake discounts or whatever. So for now, you can enroll if you'll go to our website. I'm dropping the link right now. We say explicitly that we have so-called early bird price until the November 1st. So you can join, let's say if you're individual, you can join for $800 or save $200 if you will. And then on the November 1st, we'll raise the price to the one that you are seeing currently. So this is the standard tuition. If you have attended previous boot camps, some of you have already attended or attending currently the go-to-market strategy bootcamp, then this is like the standard price that we are charging for. What if you're individual but want one-to-one? That's absolutely fine. I mean, we are just saying this is like the option. You can select, obviously, you can join without your team and select that pricing tier, up to you. I mean,
but I really don't think you will need that, because we'll provide you any feedback that you need or advice. So if you really want to dive in deeper and work with us, then that will be the price.
Good. So I dropped the link. You'll get a follow-up email from me with all the resources that we have shared. Can you please also share the questions you called us on? Yeah, no problem. So I'm dropping the link here. Boom. I will do. I think what I'm going to do next is that let me share with you the poll results so you can see again. Just a second.
And yes, we're sharing the slides. We are going to share the slides, even some additional resources with you. Slides, recording, don't worry about it. And
let's look at the next one. And guys, feel free to ask your questions. Feel free to ask your questions while I'm presenting the results from the polls, so we can cover everything that you have.
So, question: how do you create so much content in short amount of time? Well, essentially what we do is we do create content every day, and we focus on content creation primarily for LinkedIn. And the reason why we do this is because it is the channel that is driving our thought leadership, and like while we explained during this webinar, is getting a lot of results for us, not only in terms of pipeline, but also in terms of the key relationship. But what is the other thing that happens when you start creating daily content on LinkedIn, and the way that we do it? Of course, I mean, there are a lot of people who are creating content for LinkedIn, which is more like motivational or personal stories and things like this. So when I say creating content on LinkedIn, I mean real educational content like we do it. To be honest, the first thing that happens is that you start to get feedback very quickly, and you know what is resonating with the buyers and what's not resonating with the buyers. Second of all, you know that the pieces of content that are resonating, you can post more about it, and after a while, you start creating a library of really good, validated pieces of content that you can now repurpose. We have spoken about a lot of things that you have seen today. We have spoken about it on LinkedIn in bits and pieces. We spoke about demand capture. We spoke about our frameworks. We spoke about a lot of these things. So we know what will resonate with the audience, and we can now say, okay, let's repurpose that and create slides for the webinar. Now, when we have a webinar, we are actually going to write an article about this, but this article is going to be much easier because we can now repurpose a lot of the LinkedIn posts and the stuff that we, the stuff from the slides and the images that we created from the slides. We can now repurpose it into the final article. And so a lot of repurposing happens starting from LinkedIn, through the newsletter, which gets more expanded, through the webinars, which gets more expanded, to the actual articles, which go in most depth. I hope that's answering your question. Let me know.
And just probably to share the slide that we shared in the beginning, the key to success is really understanding the buyer journey and the way how the demand is created. Keep in mind that there are business triggers that you can use to attract the attention. Like you can see in our example, maybe you can't read it, so I will read it. So in our case, why our account-based marketing program underperforms and CPA is extremely high. Or like today you shared, so I'm dissatisfied with our B2B demand generation strategy, so it doesn't generate any results. So our content doesn't resonate with target buyers. So these are the business triggers that motivate target audience to look for the different solutions, right? And there are demand triggers when there is no actually any even search intent. So the demand triggers when they see the actionable case study or the framework, for example, something like this one, demand generation waterfall that I have shared with you, like this one, right? And people, it might attract the attention. They say, yeah, so I never thought about this from that perspective. It totally makes sense where I can learn more, right? This is the demand creation trigger. So once you know these triggers, it would be way easier to create actionable content. And to wrap it up, the key point is the quality. I believe that quality overweighs the quantity. And your content, you need to know what you optimize your content for. There are lots of marketers who optimize their content for likes and mass engagement. But I believe that the ultimate goal of demand generation and content is not satisfying masses, but generating demand for your product. And on this note, we can wrap up our event. It was a pleasure to chat with all of you guys. Hope to see some of you on the upcoming Demand Generation Bootcamp. If you have any questions, feel free to reach us out on LinkedIn or in Trenches community. I will also add the results from the poll to our slides and update these slides. And I know there are some of folks who attended Go-to-Market Strategy Bootcamp. So for you, stay tuned. As always, for our students, we have special pricing. So have a great rest of the week, and